Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Trip Across Cinema. I'm Mario, and with me here, as always, is Whooper.
Hey, that's me.
Hey, uh, this week we're doing the Friendly Wave, like one of the most famous new wave, I think, in cinema for a while. And I'll be honest, this been a rough week for me watching all these three films.
Has it been a rough week for you for other reasons, or was the week rough because of these three movies?
Because of these three movies. I don't really
Oh wow.
enjoy any of them.
Oh, what
But
interesting. Okay.
we get into we will talk about Hiroshima Mon Amour from 1959, uh, Jules and Jim from 1962, and Pierrot le Fou from 1965.
Yeah.
And
So
I
go
yeah
ahead.
I just be open about that. I think I'm not on the same wavelength as the new as a friendly wave.
That's so interesting because I would expect uh
Yep.
between the two of us, I would expect you to be the one to enjoy, more of these films, like enjoy the style because it really does
Yeah.
kind of feel it's so divorced from a lot of the films that I've seen, being a less
Right.
experienced film watcher, that it feels like whatever this movement was in France that was happening around this time period was a complete break from what came before, not just in France, but on the world stage.
Yeah,
And
that's
you
true.
need kind of a
Especially
historical knowledge and perspective in order to appreciate that, which you have and I don't.
yeah, yeah, and it's especially true for Jean-Luc Godard and Francois Truffaut because they were a French critic. It's like one of the very famous French
Magazine. I read about it.
magazine.
It's
Yeah.
called like Cachet du Cinema or something like
Yep.
that.
It's still on even now, and it's still like one of the most famous French magazine for movies even now. So yeah, they were critiqued and they were unhappy about how the French how safe how conventional the French cinema was. So that's why they take up the arms and they just like go shooting movie and try to break free.
Hmm.
Basically like break free of all forms and like just try to experiment with uh with the form, so to speak.
Well, I would say they
And
succeeded.
I yeah I would say that as well. Um, the thing that I always feel about watching them, and I have watched some more before, some of the friendly web film before these three as well, and I still like pretty much like in the middle of it, not really in not like they are all my favorite, but not hating them either. I think the factor that always get to me while watching this one is they know that it's a fiction, so there no attempt to like to be even real with the story.
When you
And
say they, what do you
yep,
mean?
the directors,
Okay. So
the
like the style
filmmakers.
of direction and of writing and everything
Yep.
is kind of artificial
Uh,
feeling.
yep.
Yeah, I
That's what
agree.
I
I can
feel
understand
of
that.
Constantly Trees. Yeah, and yeah, I be surprised at myself as well because Hiroshima Mon Amour, like from the south, it feel like a movie that I should love. But all right, so
You
we
don't.
talking about Hiroshima, yeah, but it's not really, Hiroshima Mon Amour now,
Okay, so we're gonna
1959.
start
Yep,
with I don't know.
the
So I
the
mean, start with
grand.
the one that I enjoyed the least. I can say that for sure.
All right, they say this is the grandfather of the friendly wave.
Do they?
I did, yeah, one of the very first one from the friendly wave. All right. So we start with your least favorite. Okay.
Right. Yeah, the it's got a curious structure to it, you know.
Yep.
Of course, there's the opening
I
shot that generates a lot of intrigue with the two lovers who are kind of entwined, and it appears like they're covered in sand, but you learn later that it's ash
yeah.
falling as a result of the atomic bomb. So
Mm-hmm.
that moment, makes you curious about where the film is going to go from there. Like, are the two lovers who are embracing the characters who we're going to meet later in the film, and we're going to track their progress up to that point? Um,
Mm.
but before you can find that out, the film kind of kills any momentum generated by that opening scene with like 15 or 20 minutes of,
Oh,
I
the
don't know,
effect of
like,
the effect of the Hiroshima bomb.
yeah. Well, the who are the characters? How do you want to refer to
All
the
right.
characters, because they're not named?
All right. So maybe just refer them as they refer each other. So Hiroshima and Navarre.
Neville?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I referred to them in my notes. Um, but the Wikipedia page for the cast list, for example, names them Elle, meaning her, and Louis, meaning him.
Him.
So I
Yeah.
didn't know if that's, but yeah, I called them Neville and Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's go with that.
so the next 15 or 20 minutes after that, that those few opening scenes are Neville um, going around, and we don't see her,
Yep.
of course, because the film hasn't really taken any sort of narrative shape yet. But it's cataloging kind of the places that she's been, I guess, and the things she's seen, the
Mm-hmm.
protests and the Hiroshima Museum with the bottle caps, all
Yep.
fused together as a result of the heat and the radiation from the bomb,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the footage of hair falling out, and people whose faces are disfigured, whose eyes are missing, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that I mean, it's not as though I'm opposed to learning about and seeing evidence of the attack on Hiroshima,
Mm-hmm.
um, but as far as a film that will eventually evolve into a narrative piece, albeit a metaphorical one,
Mm-hmm.
um, it doesn't really set the stage particularly well. Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
it does. I don't know, but it's just not conventional, and that's
Yeah. Yeah.
probably why
I
it's thought
I
of as one of the first French New Wave films. Is that it does away with like a very straightforward linear path towards understanding the characters.
mm. I actually out of all these things, I think the structures, the non-linear structure is the one that I enjoy the most out of this film because I think it's like it's more like free form. We it's like you said, it takes us like 20 to 25 minutes to actually see the two main characters. So before that, it's more like a documentary of sorts about the effect of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and like we see like all these uh, all the victims suffer from that, and then it get into their story and yeah, for me their story is the one that I not that enjoy because mostly they don't know each other before, they're having an affair, and more about like all the time we're talking it's just about like the affection they have for each other, so more about love.
Yeah, but it's
With,
I mean, obviously the two characters represent um, the two cities of Nivelle and Hiroshima. Um,
mm-hmm.
and the way that they
Yeah.
behave, the reason for Hiroshima's attraction to Nivelle is because, like, Hiroshima, the city, is trying to put its horrible past behind it. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why the Hiroshima character is infatuated with Nivelle, because it wants to, like, divorce itself from its own identity and kind of attach itself to something different, something new, something progressive.
Right.
Um,
Huh.
and of course, Nivelle, the fact that they were occupied by the Germans, That's
Yep.
the reason that she is interested in Hiroshima, is because she has fled, her hometown. And she says, as Hiroshima and Neve are getting to know each other, she says that she'll never go back to her hometown. Obviously, we learn
Mm-hmm.
later why that is, because she's experienced the trauma there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very least, Neve was eventually freed from German occupation, and
Mm-hmm.
Hiroshima never had, you know, never
Yep.
had that chance, I suppose. I mean, they weren't occupied, not until after
Yep.
the war, but it didn't have a chance at, I don't know, surrender, I guess,
Yeah.
because the emperor was like, nope, we're not going to do that, and then the bomb went off, and
Yep.
still no surrender. Second bomb,
Yeah.
and then the surrender happened. I
That.
mean, the people of Hiroshima, maybe the city could be said to have a chance, based on whatever the Japanese government, what their
Yeah.
position was, but the people who live there didn't have an opportunity to save themselves, I suppose.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Interesting to compare between Naval and Hiroshima. Like one of the city have been occupied. The other one isn't like wasn't technically occupied, but there was a lot of victims from the war. So it's like between the two cities who been affected by the war, and like the relationship they share. I have never viewed the film in that way, but I think that makes sense.
Honestly, I think it's the only way you can view the film, because of the way that the
Right.
film starts
Yep. Yep.
with
That's true.
the whole, as you said, it's like a
Yep.
kind of a documentary
And
perspective that it takes. And I mean, if the film is priming you in that way for this to be an atomic bomb movie, a Hiroshima movie, then once the characters are introduced, that I don't see any other way to read it, because
yeah,
like we hardly know anything about them. So it's just what the
that's
characters
true.
represent that's important.
Yep. And because we hardly know anything about them, that's why I have a different time caring about them. So
Well, that
especially
much I can agree
the
with.
ones
I
who,
didn't care about their romance even one bit, but that was, I
yeah,
think, supposed to be secondary to, you know,
mhm.
what
Especially
what
like
their actions represented for the cities from which they originated.
yep. Yeah, especially when like in the first 20 minutes when they was like recounting about like the effect of Hiroshima, and Hiroshima himself just keeps saying that no, you don't see anything, you don't know anything,
Right.
and
That's Hiroshima, like denying the horrific evidence of what happened to it.
right, that makes sense. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's Neville, or like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you were to like really dig into the relationship between the characters themselves as human beings
Mm-hmm.
and the cities that they represent, there's a bit more of a direct link between Hiroshima and Louis, or him, than there
Yep.
is between Neville and Elle, or her, because I think the reason that she is so attached to Hiroshima, or not attached, but the reason that she's so interested in its history and is visiting these
Mm-hmm.
museums and observing these protests and demonstrations about like stopping thermonuclear testing,
Mm-hmm.
is because she has a personal reason, so a more human reason, for never wanting to go back to Neville,
Mm-hmm.
because of what happened to her there.
Yep.
And Hiroshima, I mean, his character specifically, Eiji Okada's character, is like just very directly a representation of his city,
Yep.
because he just wants to forget. He wants to forget what's happened and lose himself in an affair with another place, somebody who represents something completely foreign and not like
Yeah.
non-Japanese.
Yep. And remember the scene later on where when Nevia recount about her trauma,
Hmm.
her first love. And there is a scenes where Hiroshima come and slap her. To I don't
I
get it.
vaguely remember that. Like, what is the
Yeah,
what? Why does he do
I
that
just remember.
exactly? Refresh my memory.
Yeah, I have no idea why. That's why.
Okay, but yeah,
I
what's some more context? I
yeah
guess.
I Neville she recounting something, and then I think she about to lose it. So I think she about to uh like
Like she's
to
becoming
cry or something.
hysterical. Okay.
Yeah, and I think he did that to came her, but like he did slap her twice, and like they both never mentioned that again. And I it just so feels so weird to me. Like it's like in the middle of I think the tea cafe or something, and
Yeah, the tea
so
house where it's
the tea
at
house.
night and
So
you can see the window past them
y-
where the
yeah,
city is all lit up.
that's right. And
Okay.
when he did slap her, like all the people surrounding,
Ah,
they like they stop and watch them.
yes. So that you bringing up that specific point that the people like the
Yep.
film kind of grinds to a halt. I don't know if there was any music playing there or not, but if there were, it
Mm.
would have stopped, and then you get the quick cuts of the people turning to look at them. Yeah.
Mm. 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 Mm.
I mean, to me, that moment it kind of fits into my interpretation of the film. Like she's becoming she's like edging towards hysteria, or like she's edging towards despair as a result of what happened to her in her own city. And obviously, that's not something that he would want to see because it would bring up, memories that he is trying
Right.
to push down.
Avoid.
And so
Right.
he slaps her, I guess, as a way of like preventing her from reaching that place, the same place that
Mm.
he doesn't want to go. Like remembering the terrible things that have happened in the place
Yeah.
that you come from.
Yep. I think that reading is pretty much spot on because later on in the films we see like the city of Neville and the city of Hiroshima kind of like intertwined to each other as well. Just like in the beginning when the two characters like kind of intertwined as well.
How are the two cities interwoven?
Right. You will see like the shot of the street in the Wales, and then cut on to the street in Hiroshima at night. I think they did that like towards the end of the films where um when the Wales and Hiroshima is about to part ways.
Huh. I didn't take note of that, of like cross cutting between those two
Yeah,
locations. I do
yeah. I
remember
think
all the scenes of Hiroshima at night with all the, like the neon lights, the flashing lights,
mhm.
with hardly anyone on the street.
I
So
think you
it
can tell
being a city
that
that's
yeah.
evolved in an effort to forget its past, but there's no one there.
Yep, I think you can tell the difference because the street in the Vale is at daylight, so it's pretty much brighter than like the nightlife at Hiroshima.
Right. I just don't remember that cross cutting technique, but
Hmm.
it
Yep.
kind of makes
The-
sense. I mean, the two characters are both struggling to leave something behind mentally and not to
mhm,
bring it up.
mhm,
But I think one of the maybe what the film is arguing is that it's like you shouldn't forget the desire to forget and to put that sort of negative experience, that horrible experience behind you,
mhm,
and only look to the future and to like try to evolve and become a new person or become a new place.
mhm.
It you shouldn't be too hasty in doing something like that
Yep.
because the what happened can't be denied.
Mhm. Yep.
And if you try to deny it, then really you're just lying to yourself, and you're even kind of it might even be seen as insulting to the people who have died or suffered as a result.
But yeah, like the last half of the films, we have like the two characters just like walking around the street and in and out of each other. So like at times Hiroshima join the Wales. At times he just kind of like follow hers,
Yeah, well, it's
roaming around.
mostly, you say that it's the characters walking in and out. It's mostly her walking out and him walking in,
Right, right,
because
right.
she's,
Yep.
she doesn't want to be she doesn't want to be around him. Eventually she decides that their love affair is over. And I guess that could even be seen as like the perspective of an outsider who sees the devastation that was wreaked on Hiroshima and can only tolerate so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go to Hiroshima, you learn about what happened, and you empathize, but you can
Yep.
only empathize so much, um, or
Mm-hmm.
else it's going to swallow you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it makes sense that she would be the one leaving like first, or leaving prematurely, like exiting scenes before he would on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. That interesting. Yeah, and we kind of just see the effect of the war in the beginning of the films, and later on we see more of like the current present day of Hiroshima, and the protest.
hmm
Very
Yeah, the
interesting
protest
films.
was something that I took note of.
Hmm.
The stop thermonuclear, like all the signs. I remember that one scene where there's a procession of signs, and the subtitles at the bottom translate them, but
Yep, yep,
they
yep,
but it's like four or five signs in a row that come up with one
yep,
thought. Like if an
yep.
if an A bomb, or if an H bomb is like 10,000 bombs, and an A bomb is like 10,000 H bombs, um, how many bombs is, I can't remember exactly what the phrase was, but the
Yep.
the idea was no more nukes.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's destruction on too great a scale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember that scene. Like that scene stretches on for a long time, and you're just sitting there waiting for the next sign to show up so you can read the subtitles and figure out what this message is.
Yep.
So it kind of dominates your attention, because all you can do in that moment, there's nothing else to occupy your eyes. So all you can do is just sit there and wait for the message to be delivered to you. Although, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the rest of the film is not that much better at, like, I don't know, coming up with busy scenes, or directing your attention, or diverting you. It is a very slow moving and
Mm-hmm.
contemplative film. There's
Yep.
not much to it other than there's a woman and a man, and they have an affair. And I mean, there's the the fact that they represent different cities, and that's made explicit by the last line of the film. But so
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple levels on which you can read the film. But as far as the film itself, when it's like proceeding and you're watching it, you're in the middle of it. It's a little dull.
Yep. Yep. I can see that. I think it get a bit more frightened when she mentioned about her first love, and
The German
we
German
yeah
soldier.
the German soldier how he died, the way he died, and yeah, and we kind of see the link between like the effect of words to uh affect these people. I actually want to hear more of the story of Hiroshima, like if he tried to recall the effect himself. But like you said, he's more of the one who tried to forget. So it makes sense that he doesn't want to reveal that part of himself to the whales.
Yeah, he mentions that he was fighting in the war,
Yep.
but that he doesn't say anything else about it. And I think that's because, as far as the film is concerned, the war is something that definitively happened in the past. The characters are trying to escape from it, which is something they I think is probably uh, the angle that the film takes, is that's something that's impossible to do, or it's something that's not advisable, something they shouldn't be doing. Um,
Yeah.
but
If he
since he
yeah.
is, yeah, he's not going to say anything else about the war. And as far as the film's purposes are concerned, like,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be any use for a scene where he just recounts the horrors of the war as it was being fought. because the main tragedy, like the main black mark here in the past is the Hiroshima bombing that like looms over the entire film.
Yeah.
That's what's
Yeah.
important, not however he was like serving the Japanese army.
Yeah, unrelated. But do you know about the story of a Japanese soldier who's like when the Japan conquers like part of Singapore and the Philippines, and then the bombing happened and they have to surrender. So there are some like the leftover soldier from Japan who like been hiding too deep into the forest that he didn't know about, like the war has already ended. So he still like try to form like the small army and try to attack people, just thinking that like the war is still on, and it's
Yeah,
happening for like 30 years, I think, afterwards, after the war end, that he knows that like the war has ended.
right. I've heard stories like that. I've never read too much about any one particular case, but I've heard about Japanese soldiers who just refuse to believe that the
Yeah,
war is over, or they can't believe it.
yeah, yeah.
Nationalism is a hell of a drug, man.
I
You
know,
start
right?
thinking that your country is the best, and you will start doing some crazy shit.
Yeah. Well. As for Hiroshima more, I think it's work if we like think more about like they representative at the cities and not as the person themselves, because like as the person themselves, they don't act like really, they don't act believably. For me, like I don't really care about any of them and their history, and like all they have for each other is that affection that like already proof, and yeah, just like short life to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very human film, not a very
Yeah.
personal,
Yeah,
natural
please.
movie. I think it's a movie with
Right.
a point to make, and it uses human beings to do it, rather than being a documentary.
Yep, that makes sense.
Although it is still a documentary for like 20 or 25 minutes.
Yeah. Have you watched Amour?
No.
Yeah, the film about a film of Michael Haneke about the two old lovers. The reason I bring that up is the actress, she plays here, and she plays, I think, I would say like 50 years later for that role in a mall, and she knocked it out of the park. So she a pretty good actress. I think this is a really good performance from her, and Echi Okada as well.
I found his performance to be a little, like every scene where he laughs feels very uh, calculated.
Yeah, he's a
Like
kind of like
it doesn't
calculated
seem
director.
like he's actually experiencing any joy whenever
Mm.
he's laughing. It's just like he's been told to laugh at this particular moment, so here goes nothing. Wah ha 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 ha.
Right, but
But that, I
yeah,
mean,
maybe it had.
that's a privilege that handsome people have.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they
Not us.
however they laugh, or whatever strange mannerisms they possess. It really doesn't matter because they're just so good looking.
Yeah. Well, I think that contributes to the fact that he doesn't know any French, so he just like kind of speak it like phonetically.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe,
So
but
laughing is like the one thing that he could do that actually, crosses the cultural barrier. And even that he
yeah.
didn't get right.
Well, he
It
tried to
sounds
be
so
mysterious.
weird. Yeah, I guess maybe that was the note that he was given. Like, um, don't laugh like a human being. Make it kind of enigmatic. And he
Yeah.
was like, I don't know what that means in Japanese because I don't speak French, but I'll try.
Right. So yeah, Alan Resnat. This is like his first films, and he been making a lot of movies since then as well. I think he's still making movie until he was like 2 years before he died. So like when he was like 89, 88, and
Mm.
yeah, his films have been like explore uh consciousness memory. So this is like kind of like the theme that he would revisit for his whole career.
Interesting. Hmm.
And now we get into like the two more prominent figures at the Friend New Wave. I think the two main creator of the Friend New Wave themselves.
Well, the two most famous, at
Yeah.
any rate.
So we get to
Jean-Luc Godard.
Yep, and Francois Truffaut.
Right.
I don't know if I pronounce it right.
It's probably
We get
Truffaut, if I had to guess.
Truffaut.
But actually, I could be
Yep.
wrong. Let me look up how you spell it. Francois.
Truffaut.
It's probably Truffaut, actually, or I don't know. Truffaut. I have no idea.
Yeah. Uh,
We'll just call him
Truffaut.
France, since his name is Francois.
Yep. So yeah, we get to Jules and Jim's,
Well,
1962.
Jules and Jim. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that the three films that we watch actually is more about romance. So like remember the new Hollywood is more about crime. This one is all about romance.
Well, let
The
me
Friend
think
New
back
Wave,
to
I
those
think
three
a
new
lot.
Hollywood films that we watched. It was Bonnie and Clyde, so there was definitely a sexual component to that film, a romantic component. And then
All
what were the
right.
other two movies?
The Graduate.
In Cold Blood.
In Cold
That was
Blood,
pretty much a
they
straight up crime film. And what was the third one?
yeah. The Graduate.
That was 100% sexual.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not as though there's a clear delineation that you can make where French New Wave is all about sex and
Yeah. Relationship.
New Hollywood is all about crime. I mean,
Yeah.
there's going to be, and I mean, in fact, Pierrot le Fou is basically the French Bonnie and Clyde. It's about a man
Oh,
and a woman who are in love, and they
yeah.
like their adventures
Yep.
as they evade the law.
Yep. That's true.
Not exactly the law in Pierrot le Fou's case, but it's definitely a crime film as well, although kind of
Yep.
an existential one.
Yep. That's true. Because I want to make that comparison when we get to Pierrot le Fou as well.
Oh, I cheated. Sorry.
No, good. Yep. So we get into Jules and Jim, but it's
Right.
more about the third characters that they care most about. Catherine.
Yeah. Catherine, yes. Catherine.
Right.
I'm so French.
Subculture.
I actually loved this film.
All right. Good on you.
I thought it was
Um,
great.
Two things that I found I really enjoy in this movie is the narration. I feel that the narration just create the flow of the films, and sometimes it doesn't really like sometimes it kind of tell you the whole stories, and I think I like that as well. A lot of
Do you
the
know if this was
narration
adapted
today
from a novel?
was it? I
I'm
thought it
asking,
was the
do you
original
know?
story. No, I don't.
Okay. Well,
Oh, right. It's by
if I had to
by
guess,
some.
it would kind of make sense for some of the narrator's dialogue to be lifted straight from the
Yep.
perspective of a third person omniscient narrator in a book.
Yep.
That's
All
what it
right.
kind of reminds me of.
Yeah, according to the short that I read now, is based on the semi autobiographical biographical novel.
Okay.
So
Huh.
yeah,
So I mean, my guess is that the narrator probably speaks in the style of the author of the book. But I mean, I love the narration because the narrator just has so many fun like turns of phrase and quips and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Like
true.
my favorite is probably when Jim is leaving Jules and Catherine's house,
Yep.
and the narrator says, "The rest of the hive sensed confusedly that Jim had lost favor with its queen, and thus naturally should leave." Like viewing all the characters as bees, and Jim is a work. All the men are worker bees, and Jim has lost. Like the queen doesn't want him in the hive anymore, so he has to leave. That's just,
Yep. Yep.
you know, the fact that the narrator is kind of stylistically divorced from the rest of the film
Yep.
allows you to insert like observations like that into just the middle of a like a romantic drama, and
Yep.
it really
Yep.
gives the film like an identifiable kind of personality.
Yep. And
So I definitely
yeah,
like the
that's
narrator.
yeah, that's right. And so yeah, I like that, and I like the score as well. I think that the score really like amp up the feel. Except for the last few scenes where like it play like the 1930s noir films that we watch.
Did it? I mean,
Yeah.
I did take notice of the score, and I especially like the main theme of the
Mm-hmm.
film, but
Yep.
I don't remember the. Well, I probably wrote something
All
down.
right.
I have like piles of notes for this film, and I probably wrote something down about the music somewhere in here, but
All right.
I don't know.
Remember the scenes where she Catherine ride the car down the river to commit suicide.
Yep.
Yeah. When they get when the car hit the rivers, you will hear that noise sound that you normally hear in noir films. Ding ding.
I
Like
don't even know.
a really dramatic sound, and I just hate that.
Oh, I kind of know what you mean. Like horns, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And even like some scene before that, I remember I hearing that as well, and I just feel like, man, it's a bit too much.
I didn't really have. I mean, I'm watching a film from 1962. I mean, it's exactly 60 years old at this point. I'm expecting the music not to feel particularly modern, so I didn't have an issue
Yep.
with that. I guess.
Mm,
uh, I mean, I'll just take your word for it that the music kind of takes a turn for the cheesy
mm,
towards the end of the movie, but
yeah, but
I I did like the music in general. I can say that.
mm, yep, yep. So this is more a story about not about yeah, it's still a friendship. The movie about friendship of Chu and James, but it also more like how they are related to Catherine, and
Yeah, I mean,
we have
I would almost go so far as to say that it's Catherine's film.
right. Yep, and we
She's
have
the most interesting
Albert as
character for
well.
sure.
Yep,
I mean,
yep, and
Albert
we
is
have
just
like
like the other man. I didn't feel as though he was particularly. I
yeah,
didn't
but
really particularly care about him.
he comes in and out as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Now he mostly just hangs out, and Catherine goes to him.
Mm-hmm.
She's got to do it
And
to get
yeah.
even, or her way of getting even is to do more, to take revenge on a greater scale than whatever could possibly be done to her. That's the way Jules explains it.
Yeah.
So Albert is there for that purpose.
Yeah. And it's interesting that uh the way I think the way it's set up to meet Catherine, because at first we the dude don't immediately meet Catherine, but they have encountered several girls, like and like after they see the statue, remember the statue at the beginning, and
Yep.
then they see Catherine with like the present of that statue. I think that's what it trying to say.
The present.
I mean like she's like the living thing that look exactly like the statue.
Yeah, she's like the very embodiment, or she has the essence of it,
Yeah,
or something along those
yeah,
lines.
yeah. Interesting.
Right. So they were both fascinated by the statue. So the film from the very beginning sets you up to understand there's going to be romantic conflict,
Yep.
because both men are smitten with the statue, like they love it so much, which just seems like a very pretentious. Probably not the first time I'm going to use that word in this
Yep.
episode. It just seems like a very French thing to do. Like go over to a friend's house and he shows you some slides of some stone heads on an Adriatic
And
island off the coast of, I don't know, Slovenia or Slovakia, whatever. And
yep.
you're like, oh yes, show us that last one again, please. Oh, that statue is absolutely exquisite.
Yep. And they immediately come to that statue in person the
Yeah,
next day.
that's the thing that boggles my mind. Like you eventually, the film does not make a. In fact, all three of these films really
Yep.
don't make a big deal, or they make hardly any mention of the characters' occupations, like their jobs.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
In the first film, we learn, it's the
He's
Neville
an
is an
architecture.
actress and he's an architect. Yeah,
Yep.
but that doesn't really matter.
Yep. Yep.
Like when you think about the film as a whole, that those things play almost no role. And in this film, both of them are authors, but not really that clear when the two
Yep.
characters are introduced. I don't even know if the film specifies it at all until later.
Yeah. I until later
So
because
so these guys,
yeah.
they're just two artists who are so successful, I guess, and well off that they can just like take a trip. So they go to this island where the statues are. So what that would mean is they have to leave France. They have to travel probably across Italy
Mhm.
and through Slovenia, and even maybe Croatia, before taking a boat to whatever this island is in the Adriatic Sea, because that's how you would get there from
Well.
France. So this is a massive trip that they've planned, and they just do it on a whim. So these guys
Yeah.
must be rolling in it. Like they don't have
Yeah.
to work to live.
Well, they enjoy the lifestyle, like the carefree lifestyle, and yeah, they have it.
I
And
wonder if while
yeah,
the French New Wave movement was happening, France was experiencing like a real bubble economy. Like if everything was
yeah,
great and everybody was like well off, because even in
that makes
Pierrot le
sense.
Fou, he's been fired from his job, and um, like money doesn't seem to be a concern for the main characters in that film at all, or at least
Mm.
they put on the affectation that they don't care about money.
Yep, yep.
It's
And
kind of interesting because, like in Hollywood films, the characters' occupations, their jobs, often factor heavily into like the plot.
yep, yep, yep,
But here, it's like no, it's all about art and cinéma
yep, yep. That's right. About book in kind of Pierrot le Fous.
and poetry.
That's right. So yeah, they meet Catherine, and basically we go through the relationship between first between Jim,
No,
no,
Jules.
Jules and Catherine, and then they have been separated by war as well, which they are like in a different side. I actually like the fact that Jules is Austria.
Right.
I don't know if it like really matter is especially the fact that like when they fight they are enemies, but yeah, afterwards they get back together, and actually they get married, have a children, have a kid.
Man, you're really
And then
flying through this film right now.
what else is there to say?
The whole point of the film is like the development of the romance, and like the observations that the film has about it, about like men and women and the conversations that they have, and the differences between them, the signals they give off to one another, the friendship between the two men.
Oh,
You're just
right,
like,
right.
and then this happened,
The-
and then this happened, and then this happened.
Yeah, the signal.
It's no
the
wonder you
signals,
didn't like this movie.
I think you are more expert, more of an expert than me in regard to this because you enjoy it more.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's clear. I mean, there's way more to the film than just
it
the events that take place, you know?
Oh, before we get to something else, I just remember that I watched the film once before, like a long time ago. So I don't remember anything about this film except for the fact that uh, there is a scene of the two main characters and the girl run across the roof for like 12 minutes. And so now when I watched the film, that scene wasn't even there, and uh, and I learned that that scene is actually from a movie from Godard, Band They Apart, and not this one, Jules and Jim, which basically I think have like the same set of story as well about the triangle love.
Okay.
My clothes.
Yeah, it could. It does. I mean, obviously, my experience with this genre is very limited. It being these three films and Cleo from 5 to 7,
Yep. Yep.
and I guess would that be it?
Yep.
You wouldn't count
I
Jean Dielman.
No.
That's not really a new wave film, I guess. I
Yep.
mean, it's highly experimental, but
Mhm.
or I don't even know if I would call it that. I guess it is. But in any case, the very loose impression that I'm getting from my limited experience watching French New Wave films is that they are like obsessed with,
Relationship.
well, yeah, but relationship, sex, men and women, the differences between them, like
Yep.
that's
Interesting.
what the average French New Wave film is going to focus on.
Yep.
If I go into one in the future, that's what I'm going to be thinking. Is
Mhm.
that's probably what the movie will be about. Yeah, and this film like is kind of emblematic of that idea.
Yep.
It's all about men and women, their relationships with each other.
Yep.
That's why it doesn't just start with as a love story between Jules and Catherine. First, we have to meet all these other girls like Therese and I don't even remember all their names.
I was impressed that you remember their name, but yeah, that's good.
Well, I only remember one. She's the girl who does the what does she call it? The steam engine, where she
right.
runs around the room with the cigarette like right in the center of her mouth, and she's producing a whole like billows of smoke.
Yep.
And the score goes crazy in that moment. It's like and
Yep.
I was like, okay, this film's gonna be a lot to take in, huh? But it turned
Yep.
out that all the women that Jules met and like tried to form relationships with, and I mean there are scenes where he's talking to Jim and he's like, oh, there's this woman I love, and he pulls a picture out of his wallet. Oh, and then there's this one as well. I would definitely love her most if I weren't more in love with this other girl.
Yep.
And
then
showing him all these photos.
Yep. And then the third one we don't see the photos, and
Right.
because he drawing her face in the tape on the table.
And then Jim tries to buy the table.
Yep. But they had to come at the whole set.
Right. Yes. So that's
It's
another
some really
example
good
of
details.
like, that's another example of these films being extremely like art driven, I guess. Like who would think to do that, you know?
Yep.
It's too bad they didn't have
The
smartphones
signals.
so they could just take a picture of it.
That's right. The signals, I think that's interesting. So they are doing the legs, the leg thing instead of like holding hands. That's what I think I remember before meals, and
Yeah, they all
Catherine's-
touch feet under the table, or they're supposed to.
yeah, and Catherine, there's a moment that I didn't quite get. I think Catherine is sending the signal to choose.
Yeah. And
Under the
Jules,
table,
then the
right?
camera moves back up above the table, and you can see that Jules is like very pleased. He's happy. He's
Why?
happy about that because he's like, you know, the theme of at least the first 30 minutes or so of the film is that he's like unlucky in love. He's shy. He's not very confident. He doesn't have a lot of experience with women, So and Jim is trying to help him in that department,
Yep.
which eventually works out. But then, of course, the rest of the film happens, and it becomes way more complicated.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
there's
I think we
something
get.
interesting that happens, like a directorial trick, where the
Mhm.
you see, like, as that's happening with the character's feet underneath the table, and you see like who likes who, like which characters are attracted to or drawn to one another based on the behavior of their feet under the table. The rest of the frame fades away, and there's a moment where you're left with only the image of Catherine and Jules' faces,
Uh-huh,
and the rest
uh-huh.
of the film goes blank. Like it's a black screen with just that little cropped out part of the frame in view.
Yep, yep, yep.
I was like, yes, this is a French New Wave film.
Yeah, yep, yep. They have fun with that. I think we get a real sense of Catherine in one of the scenes where they're watching a play until midnight, and Jules and Jim commenting about the role of a woman in the films, especially Jules when I think he kind of like criticized the girl roles
Right.
in the play, and Catherine just doing the protest by jumping off the river.
Right.
The river.
She jumps into the river off of the. It's not a bridge, off just the street, I guess.
Yeah, off the street. Ooh,
Yeah. Well,
that girl.
the reason she does that is to protest what Jules is saying, because he's speaking very like patriarchally about how the play should have been more clear about whether she was a virgin or not, the main character.
Yep.
And Catherine,
Yep.
of
Yep.
course, says, "What is it like? How is that relevant? What does that matter?" Because
Mhm.
Catherine is like a kind of a feminist figure, I think, in this film.
Mhm.
She
I
doesn't,
think
she won't let anyone tell her
Mhm.
how many men she should or shouldn't love, or at
Yep.
what time she should do so, and
Yep.
she like is sort of a liberated figure in that
Mhm.
way, sexually,
Yep.
romantically, but at the same time, there's the other half of her that wants like more traditional fulfillment, and when
Mhm.
she isn't able to get that, she acts out.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I
So
think
she's
that
a very
signal.
conflicted, very
Yeah,
multifaceted character. I think she's by far the most interesting person in the movie.
yeah, that's true. And I think to the extent of the three films as well, I think she the most interesting characters out of the three films.
Yeah, I would say so.
And yeah, I think that signal for like the tone for the rest the theme as well for the rest of the films, because I think if there's a one man team that Jules and Jim want to say is that see Catherine doesn't fit into like your typical like girl next door type.
Well, I mean, I
She's
would go
more.
way further than that. Honestly, I would say that she
Yep.
doesn't fit into like a monogamous society.
Right. Yep.
The sort of like any society that tells you that you can love only one person and that you have to dedicate your life to them. She does not fit into that.
Mhm.
She doesn't subscribe to it. She can't survive in that sort of setting, and ultimately she doesn't.
Yep.
And she just wants to love whoever she loves, whoever she is most attracted to, without being hypocritical or deceitful about it. That's why, like, there's the weird arrangement, or it's weird to me, that Jim moves into the house with Jules and Catherine, and
And the
there've got
kid.
to be. Yeah, well, they try to. He even tries to have a daughter with Catherine,
Yep.
even though she has already had a child with Jules. It just seems
Mhm.
very, like complicated. I couldn't imagine handling that sort of arrangement. But
Yeah.
Catherine is a different breed. Like she's she's on another
Yeah.
level that I cannot reach.
And I think Chu as well. I think the one who like who obviously been hurt the most out of this, but I think he just cheap enough for this, and he know that he's not gonna handle Catherine. So just like gonna just roll with it, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's out of desperation, I think, that he accepts this arrangement because he feels that Catherine is going to leave again, as she did once before,
Yeah,
and just leave
yeah,
him with Sabine. And he doesn't want that to happen. Like, he'll do anything to avoid that. So he understands that Catherine is attracted to Jim,
mm,
and that Jim is to her as well. So he's like, "Oh, just move in, man,
yep.
and then she'll
He did.
stay, and I can hang out here too."
Ooh.
Like
Yeah,
I couldn't, I couldn't do that.
I yeah. Well, I think it says something that like we were talking about this like 50 years or more in the future
60, yeah.
and 60, and like this idea is still pretty much like baffling us. That it's still like it still feel like innovative at times,
Yeah,
unconventional to say the least, unconventional.
it's certainly unconventional. But I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure that there are people who have done this in the past. I
Mm.
mean, the film is based on a semi autobiographical book.
Yeah.
So it happened to one person at least, which means it can probably happen to hundreds and thousands more.
Well. It's semi, so maybe it's the part that like it's a fiction part.
Right. Yeah, maybe all the more risque elements of the movie are the parts that were invented. Um,
Maybe the part where they going to see the statue the next day was real. you know.
could be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
And
so like I immediately took notice of the fact that they just saw that statue on in a slideshow being put on by a friend, and they were like, let's go and see this statue. Let's cross multiple countries and hop on a boat, go to a
I
practically deserted island and see this thing.
I
That's just
I think that's
such a
cool.
carefree way of living.
Yeah. 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 And the latter half, we see more of the relationship between Catherine and Jim, and the fact that he also engaged with another girl, and
Right. What was her
yeah,
name? Gilbert.
Gilbert, Gilbert, yeah, well, mhm,
Yeah. Or maybe it was Gilbert. I think it was Gilbert.
yeah,
Which to me sounds like Gilbert, which is a man's name, at least based on
that's
my
right,
understanding.
that's right, yeah.
But I so every time he would say her name, I would be like, "What?" But I mean, the woman
Yeah,
who played her was extremely beautiful. So, man's name or not, she's definitely a woman.
yeah, yeah. So he decided to stick with Gilbert because uh, he knows that he and Catherine are meant to be together. So yeah, so Catherine basically just revolve. So she tried to shoot him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's their relationship goes through a whole bunch of other transformations, developments, like ups and downs before that point. But uh, that's certainly a pivotal moment in the film. And what struck me as kind of weird is that she does like threaten to shoot him, and
Yep.
he grabs the gun and gets out successfully. But so then weeks or months later, however much time elapses,
Yep.
he meets Jules and Catherine at the theater by chance, and he's
Yep.
like, "How
Yep. Yep.
wonderful to see both of you, including the person who tried to kill
Yep.
me just a little while ago. That what a happy coincidence this is. Like what
And then and
what are
then
you
that person
doing,
just
man?
and then that person just like happily tell you to go into the car for a ride, and you do it,
Yeah,
it will be fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the like Catherine is obviously a very temperamental character who suffers from like mood swings.
Yep.
Um, And so I guess that his assumption was just that she she was in a particularly bad place, like she was having a bad spell at that point, and that she had recovered from it. You know, I don't know
Mm.
exactly how much time had elapsed. I personally, I would never want to exist within the same sphere, uh, like like the same physical place as somebody who had
Yep.
pulled a gun on me before. I would just be like, no, you know, even if
Yep.
I didn't hold a grudge against that person anymore and it had been years and years and years later, I would still be like, let's just keep our distance.
Yep. Yep.
But I think the like Jim cannot resist her, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
like that's constant throughout the entire film. I mean, we see him together with Catherine more than we see Catherine together with her husband.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
you know, including the scene, for example, where he comes over to her apartment and she's getting dressed up as a man,
Mm-hmm.
and he's
Mm-hmm.
helping her with that, and that's the first time we
Oh.
see him looking at like the nape of her neck, which we later hear from him is like the the part of her body that he's always been fixated on,
Yep.
which I guess you know you can infer started at that moment.
Yep.
But like that scene in particular,
That
we
scene
just get
was
scenes like
really
that between Jim and Catherine more than we do between Jules and Catherine.
right. Right. Right.
So it's the film's treatment of Jim and Catherine as like the more like the more prominent couple, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
makes it
Mm-hmm.
kind of clear that he just can't resist her. Like anytime he gets a letter from her, almost anytime, he just hops out of bed with Gilbert and is like, "Okay, I'm on my way.
Yeah.
I'm coming over."
Yep. Yeah. The scene where she dressed up as a man and was a bit weird to me because like she dressed up as a man and she said like let's see if everyone knows, and then the very next scene there's a guy who asks like Monsieur, can I have your can you light me a cigarette please? Thank you,
Yeah.
Monsieur. and and like a bit just like so that it's just so intentional as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, very much so. Like that kind of speaks to what you were talking about right when we started recording. Like these films are very
Where?
they're yeah, I guess I don't know, maybe a way one way to put it is they're not very cinematic. Like they kind of exist merely as text.
Right.
And
Right.
they don't like become what you would think of as like a typical film where you're kind of carried away by the story and you accept it as real.
Mm-hmm.
These films all seem to be like very
E-
deliberately constructed, and they kind of have a point to make, you know. And
Yep.
they're very much like theme driven, I think.
Yep. And
They
style
just
over the
yes,
characters. Yep.
yeah,
All styles.
they're highly stylistic, yes.
Yep.
And so the immediate success of her masculine experiment just I think the point is that she doesn't want to be limited by what's like traditional modes of femininity. And I mean, maybe dressing up as a man is not the best way to break free of those limits. But this film was made 60 years ago, you know? So
Yep.
just her dressing up as a man to begin with could be seen as, you know, perhaps in the time that this film was made would be seen as like her way of like rejecting traditional femininity.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
the scene has its place, I think, even if it is rather odd.
Yep. 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 Agree. Agree with that. All right. You have
I
any
just
other
I just
notes
really
on this?
yeah, I just really like these characters.
Uh,
I really like the film's treatment of Catherine's character. Like
mm,
she's almost a heroic figure in this movie.
Heroic.
Yeah,
All right.
I would say so. Like the way that she struggles with the two halves
Oh.
of her personality. One that is
Yep.
like very
I think.
like refuses to be defined or pinned down, and the other part of her that kind of wants a man to like keep her, and wants
Yep.
to have his children. Those two desires both exist within her equally, and the way that she like balances them and struggles between them, and struggles with her sexual and romantic impulses that result from that dichotomy is really interesting to me. And I kind of view her character as heroic for that reason.
Mhm. And I think we can get a sense of the way she behaved based on her upbringing as well, because I think at one point they mentioned that she was a child between like a French aristocrat and a English woman, I think, of like a with a lower class. So that's why she kind of like the mix between, you know, like already a contradiction, so to speak.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That the film would try to illustrate that with um,
Yeah,
like her origin kind of being dualistic as well.
yeah, and so that she behave, you know, like she behave more like a high class person at one point, and you know, like trying to break away with all the conventional. So I think that makes sense. And the way that she sometimes she speak English as well, is instead of French. I think it's like
Right.
unconventional in a way.
That scene on the beach
Yep, yep, yep.
where I couldn't even grasp what she was. I mean, she spoke in very good English, which is my native language, and I still couldn't understand what she was talking about. Not that I couldn't understand her
All
words,
right.
but like the idea that the
I
sky is a tiny blue sphere and that our
Yeah,
distance from it, our proximity to it, like changes the nature of reality or
yeah,
so. I couldn't follow it at all. But
yeah,
it clearly we're meant to get the idea that she's like an intellectual or she fancies herself one as a result of
yeah,
that
yeah.
scene is like proof of that, I guess, or evidence of
I
that.
I would say another thing, yeah. When you mentioned about the French New Wave, is that they are more kind of like intellectual than your normal films.
Well,
So
they certainly present
it's
themselves that way, at least.
yeah, like you said, it's like all more text than
Yeah.
than visual form. But I guess we actually get to Pierrot le Fou, because it's this one is actually all visual as well. It looked great.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I would say that's what I enjoyed the most about the film. In fact, midway
Yep.
through it, I paused the movie. Like the film made me want to go take a walk outside, just because the shots of like the you have to imagine the location scouting. I mean, I don't know how. There's
Yep.
no way for me to know how long they scouted for these exterior shots.
Yep.
But regardless of how long it took, like the placement of the camera is so perfect for Ferdinand and Marianne to like enter the frame from one side and kind of walk down like a slope or a bank, and then
Mm.
the hill that they're walking on or the path of the trees would twist the other way, so then they come back to the side of the frame that they entered from, and then they'll like walk behind some trees, so they're in the background now and the trees are in the foreground. the
Mm.
just the way that those shots are laid out really puts the characters in a natural environment. You know,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
it's
Yeah.
I don't know if I really got across what I was trying to say there, but those shots are like very very. You have to really think deeply about the path that the actors are going to take and put the camera in exactly the right place so that you don't need to move the camera, and all the
Mm.
actors' steps within the shot will be like just within the frame, exactly where you want them to be. It's just
Yep.
a lot of
Yep. Yep.
thought, I think, was put into
I
the exterior scenes, and it's kind of interesting to me that
mm.
that's the case because a lot of French New Wave films are said to be like shot very cheaply and in like people's apartments, and it's
Yep.
just people talking in
Yep.
rooms and
Yep. Yep.
stuff. This film was not like that at all. This film was
Yep.
very kind of lavish looking, I think.
Right. Right. Yeah. All right. So just let me begin with the reason I picked Pure the Fool is that one article that I share you in in
Yeah.
India. Why?
Yeah. In fact,
I
as
gotta
soon
say
as you
that.
said at the start of this podcast episode, I didn't really like any of these three films, I just started laughing internally because you were so like hot on this movie because some douchebag writer put it high on a list.
They let's see what they say about Pierrot le Fou. Pierrot le Fou is one of the most beautiful works of art of the 20th century, not just movies. Uh, One of the most beautiful works of any medium. It's shot in composed with a rigorous and a compositional sense that's so refined that you think it might just be a structural film. Oh my god! All right, so let's get
Yeah.
into the film itself.
Those are the words of a man who feels like he needs to justify all the money he spent on film school.
Right. Uh, I would say that the plot is it basically Bonnie and Clyde. So we have like two a couple on the run.
Yep.
They try to do something, but the thing is we see all these, or we see the first violence off screen. So we see like a man already, like get killed by whom? I think by the girl, right?
Yeah, she kills him.
Yeah.
Definitely, because there are scissors stuck in the back of his neck, and that's like her trademark weapon.
Yep. And Ferdinand or Pierrot, he just basically swing with it, and he doesn't know that Marianne, like steal some money, right? Because I don't think he mentioned any of that until like very late into the movie.
Well, the I think the details of the arms running operation that she's involved in are kind of secondary in importance to all the characters talking about death and art and sex and
Yep.
stuff. Because the film is not. I mean, it's not at all clear. He goes to her apartment because he's bored with his wife and the party
Yep.
that she demands that he go to, where people are just talking about products that they've bought recently.
Yep.
And
And that's
there's a whole bunch of nude
I
women at that party, and they just. I wasn't
yeah.
exactly sure what the point of that was.
I think it's just like a critic to the like middle class life. Like they basically talking
Though the people at that
about,
party were not middle class at all.
all right, the certain kind of class. I think the artists, because there was one like American directors who to say about his new movies there.
Yeah, that scene was very fascinating to me because obviously it's a satire. Like the American
Mm,
director, the film is clearly sending up American culture in general. Like when Ferdinand and Marianne put on that play
yep.
about the
All right. Yeah.
Vietnam
Yeah. Yep.
War,
Yep.
like for the sailors.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
the film's very anti-America.
Uh,
And so you have to assume that the American director at that party is also like when he says, film is all about life and death and violence. And he's going on like this, like the idea, I
emotion.
think, of that scene. Yeah, the idea is that this guy is just a gas bag, and he's just talking out of his ass. But the film itself, Pierrot le Fou, has the main character writing in his diary about like the nature of life and death and everything all the time. He's no better. He's no less. Here's the word again: pretentious.
Yep.
The film is a caricature of
I
itself almost.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, that director is a real director, Sam Fuller. He actually also pretty famous at the time.
Oh, I may have
Yeah.
completely misread that scene. Like, do you know at all
Right.
whether Godard admired the work of Sam Fuller?
Yeah. I would say so. Yes.
Okay, well,
But
scratch. Well, I mean, I still think there's kind of an element of parody to the way that he delivers
yep. Yep. Yep.
those lines, like the way that he kind of hams it up as he's talking. But I
Yep.
probably
Yeah, well,
I don't know,
but
like knowing that Godard cast that director out of respect for his work changes my read of that scene entirely.
yeah, but just like the color palette when he go into like different settings, man, that look,
Yeah, the lighting that
yeah,
cast up against the wall as he's walking like kind of horizontally through the frame from room
yep,
to
yep,
room,
yep,
and most of the women are naked. I th- I think the reason that they're naked is like the idea is that they're kind of empty, like they have nothing.
yep,
They're
yep,
just they're
yep,
consumerists. They're just talking about the sort of hair products that they bought recently, and the men are all talking about cars.
yep, yep,
Um,
yep.
and
I would say the same.
there's nothing. They're empty-headed. They have nothing to offer except for their bodies. I guess would be the idea, and that feels really wrong to say, but I mean, this is a film that kind of
Hmm.
puts it all out there. So
Yep, yep,
that
that's
would be
right.
my guess.
And I think it's just more to reinforce how how the main characters, Ferdinand, he's get more of his current life. He
Right,
just feel like all the emptiness, and like, so when he get a chance to meet his ex girlfriend
right,
Marianne, offer her advice, and like he get a chance of getting away. He does.
right. So they that night they probably sleep together. That would be my guess,
Uh,
because he wakes
yeah,
up he
but
wakes up in bed and she makes him breakfast and brings it to him.
yep,
And I
and
mean, their
yeah,
relationship was sexual from the beginning, based on their backstory. So
yep,
that brings us to the point where she's killed a guy, and that's like he wakes up the next day and there's just a corpse
yep,
in her on a mattress in her living room.
and they
It's
just like, let's go. Oh,
yeah.
oh, no, 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 no. Before that, there's like another guy who coming in, so they have to do like all the hide and seek, and like
Well, that's
he,
her husband, isn't it?
uh, oh shit, yeah, that's her husband. Yes, that makes sense. And he was about to hit the bottle in his head, but like he back out, and it's the girl who had to do it. Actually, it's Marianne who had to do all the killing. And
Right.
he didn't do anything until much later on in the movies.
Right. Well, that's, I mean, that kind of is encapsulated
And
in a line that she delivers really far towards the end. Like, just because women have full breasts and soft thighs, don't think that we won't kill you
yeah,
to survive. Just think
yeah,
about what women are doing in Cuba and Israel, and I think she says some third
Vietnam,
country as well.
Vietnam as
What
well.
is it? Vietnam. Okay.
Vietnam,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Right. I mean, that would be probably the most relevant example based on the film's stance on the
yeah. But
Vietnam War.
like all the killings, all the like that scene and the scene later on where they try to when they fill the petrol, and there's like a bunch of security guys coming in, and she tricked one of these guy by doing something. It looks so fake. It looks so like unreal.
I think there's a
It kind of like comical,
yeah. Well,
intentional, right?
that's one of the. It's definitely intentional. In fact, it's a reference to some film or something because she says that she learned this trick while watching so and so or such and such, perhaps a movie
Right.
star or a particular film or something like that. But this film is absolutely packed with references to other movies and
Mm,
to the works of poetry and
mm,
comics. Even there are like
right.
there sometimes the characters read comic books, and there sometimes when there's a dialogue happening between two characters, it will cut to still images of like comic book characters who are sometimes like they're painted on walls as part of a mural,
Mm,
and it'll cut back and forth between the heads of two comic book characters to represent the voices of the two people having the discussion. So it just feels
mm,
to me as though to understand and appreciate this movie, you need to like love this director. You need
Right.
to understand his perspective by seeing his past work and knowing his politics and
Mm.
just like having read a biography of the man to get all of his influences because his influences are like nakedly included in the movie. And that's just one example where she says, "Oh yeah, I picked up this trick watching such and such a movie." Points towards the
Yep.
sky. Person looks up. She socks him in the stomach. Um,
Yep. Yep. And
it's I don't think you're gonna really love or really understand this movie at all,
yep.
unless you view it as just like a collection of Godard's thoughts and influences. That seems to be to
I
me
think.
to be what the film is, and for
Mhm.
that reason, I couldn't really appreciate it on like perhaps its intended level.
Yeah, well, I think that makes sense in a way that first I think like after this period because he start making movie after being a critic in 1960 and he making like two movies a year until like late 1967 1968 where he more focused about the Vietnam War. So I think he done like a couple of documentary in regard to the Vietnam War,
Huh.
and
Okay.
we see that that view throughout this film as well, like you mentioned before, and yeah, and the thing is he also doesn't have a script before doing this, so like basically all of this is like improvisation from him, so like free chess,
Is
and
that how
I
he
think that makes
directs all of
sense.
his films, or just this one?
Some of them and this one including so like he doesn't have a concrete script before and he just kind of like improvise as they goes.
Huh.
So yes, so I think that's the thing that we feel it lose. We feel that like some of the dialogue are really nonsense, especially like the the scene at the very end where Ferdinand meet like one of the stranger something where he say about like there's a tune that like uh, he been obsessed with that like haunted him for life, and I think it just doesn't make sense at all. It's like in the
Well,
whole story, but
I had a particular reading of that conversation.
right,
I think that his obsession with that music was meant
yep,
to represent man's obsession with women.
uh,
Because if you think
that
about the
thing,
way that
man.
he relays the story, any time, I mean, it's the story is mostly about three women that he meets and he like caresses their hands, either the top,
Yep,
the bottom, or both,
yep,
indicating like
yep, yep,
his
yep.
level of interest in the woman based on their level of attractiveness. Uh,
Uh,
you know,
yep,
that's how he tells the story is that he caressed the top of the woman's hand. She was very beautiful. The woman who
yep,
was not as good looking, he just caressed the bottom.
yep, yep, yep,
And the woman who he just wanted to settle for, he did both sides just to be done with it.
yep.
So the story that he tells is not really about the song. The song and the fact that he can't rid himself of the sound of it, I think probably has to do with like men being unable to rid themselves of the desire for women. And I mean that's what drives Ferdinand for most of this movie. There's a point
Mm-hmm.
after he's been rejoined by Marianne on the docks because he's taken up a job and he's gonna
Yep.
like drive the princess of I think an Arabian country or something to
Uh-huh.
safety on his boat. That was very strange. I didn't quite understand that. That probably has some political significance I'm not aware of. But that's when she's got her sailor hat on and she is like, "Surprise, I'm back."
Uh-huh.
And there's a conversation that they have, and she asks him a question like, "Who are you really?" Or what really drives you? And he says, "I'm just a man with sexual desire."
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the reason why he accompanies her for so much of this film, despite not
Yep.
getting along with her particularly well, is that
Yep.
he, you know, she's just really hot, and he wants a piece of that. And in general, he wants a piece of women because that's what drives men to do the things they do. I think that's probably the stance that this film is taking.
Yeah, and when they, like when they hang around the, like on the beach, like all he wants to do is just, like enjoy the beach view, writing books, and like spend time with her, and she get fed up of that very quickly.
Yeah. She just
So
wants to do
yeah,
something, go somewhere,
yep,
and he just wants to sit and think, and write poetry and read poetry, and I mean
man,
this is another instance of the movie just being wildly French.
yep,
Is that's what he wants to do? Can't you just do that? At your house. If you want to write and read poetry, can't you do it in your house?
yep,
Do you really have to be on the beach? I mean, the idea is that they're in nature. I think that the philosophy of naturalism probably has a
hmm
lot to do with what this movie is about, because there's many shots of them
hmm
walking along the beach or um, through the trees or down like grassy hills or wading through
yeah,
the river in her dress and his suit. Um,
yep,
the characters are just placed in a natural environment more often than not.
yep, and
So
having a
go ahead.
pet pirate, or having a
Yes,
pet bird, and something else. I don't remember. That's something else.
there was like a
A
dog or
squirrel,
something.
a dog.
I
Yeah,
thought it was like just a little miniature dog. And
jeez.
there's another reference to an inspiration or an influence of Godard's when she says, "We've played Jules Verne for long enough." Jules
Yeah,
Verne being an author, and the parrot kind of bringing his work to mind because he wrote like adventure stories,
mm,
and like where characters might be in the jungle or out to sea, things like that, and the parrot would be kind of fitting right in with that theme.
mhm. And
But she
we
doesn't
have
want to play
seen.
Jules Verne. She wants to go dancing or go rob some more people or
Yep,
whatever.
yep, yep, yep. This is not the first time we see the lead actress Anna Karina though. Remember, like we did see her somewhere before, briefly.
In one of the movies we've watched previously,
Yep, yep, yep.
I don't know, who was she?
Cleo from 5 to 7. The
Was she the
the
friend who posed nude?
no. The shot where Cleo went to the cinema and watching the
Okay,
silent movies.
right.
So that have her and got that. Remember?
Oh,
Playing.
Godard acted in that
Yeah,
film within the
yeah,
film.
yeah. That's right.
Okay, interesting.
So they were couple at the time. They still couple until this movie. I think after this one, they divorce.
Hmm. Maybe she wasn't
Yeah,
particularly happy with playing a woman who couldn't get along with her man, and it reminded her of problems she
maybe
was having at home.
mm, maybe that just remind her too much of the real life.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if Godard came into this film without a script, then you have to imagine that a lot of him informed Ferdinand's character. So maybe she
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
really see eye to eye with him regarding his subconscious desire to
yep.
just hang out on the
And
beach and write poetry all the time.
yeah, but the whole thing about like the whole plot, because there is a plot in this film, but it kind of like taking a second seat. So that's
Oh
why
yeah,
we've been picking up bit and pieces from this. So we don't know until the very end that like Ferdinand had been double crossed by her, because her brother turned out to be like the real lover, and
yeah,
with all the money that she took from like from the first murders. and all
No,
that.
the money that she took from the first murders was burned up in the car
All right. So what that money
when they set
is?
the car on fire, and then
That's
she's like furious at him, even though in a later scene she
yeah,
claims not to care about money when she addresses the camera directly. She says, "Oh, I don't really
yeah,
care
yeah,
about
yeah,
money, but he just doesn't understand that." This is shortly after she's like
yep,
been like,
yep,
"You idiot, why did you burn up all the money?"
yep. So where that money come from?
I
Again.
don't know. I didn't totally follow this film.
Yep.
But
Oh,
the
but
money that you're talking about is the money that he has in the briefcase that he won't give to her in the bowling alley, right? That's what you're
right.
thinking of.
But yeah, that's right.
Where did
But
that money
then
come
like
from? I can't remember.
yeah, I think it's all right. Yeah, I don't remember either. But he did give up that money to her, like at the very last scene before she set off,
Yeah,
and that I think that when he know that because she told him that she be back like at certain time, and when she missed it, that when Ferdinand know that he been double crossed or
right.
triple crossed.
But you know that she's going to betray him because there's a
Yeah,
scene like midway through the movie where they're at the beach.
yeah,
I think maybe this is the scene where the bird and the parrot are both there. They've sat down to eat at that little table,
uh-huh.
and he's like, will you?" I can't remember exactly what question he asks. It's probably not as grand or as sentimental as "Will you love me forever?" or "Will you
Uh-huh.
never betray me?" But he asks something to that effect, and she says, no, "Oh, of course, I will always be loyal to you. I'll never betray you." And then she turns and looks at the camera, and
All
then he
right.
asks her again, "Will you always be loyal to me?" She's like, "Yes, I will. I love you. I will never betray you." And then she turns again and like looks directly into the camera for a second time. The clear implication
Okay.
being that of course she's going to double cross him because she's a woman.
Yeah. All right. I didn't catch that at all, but
You don't remember the scene where she looks right into? I mean, there are
that
multiple
yeah,
moments where
that's what's
characters speak directly to the camera in this film, like when they're riding in the car.
yeah. I just remember that scene, and I think he speak first, or is that was that her who said
Well,
first?
it's him who says, "Oh, I'm." She says, "Who are you talking to?" He says, "Oh, I'm just talking to the audience."
Yeah. That cheeky one. Yes.
Yeah, but that's not the only instance of breaking the fourth wall in the film. The scene that I was
Mhm.
just describing, where she clearly signals her intention to betray him by looking into the camera two times,
Right.
um, is the more
Uh,
important scene of the two of them.
I
Because
didn't catch that at all. Hmm.
okay, well, you definitely caught it. You just don't remember it because it's so direct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
The scene that
it's just
yep. Go
no,
on,
I
go
don't
on.
have anything to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, the scene that I remember now is the one that he getting tortured by the waterboard. I think it.
Right.
I mean, it happened in real life. It just like they have no special effect at all. So he getting actual waterboard for that.
Yeah. Well, that's why they only do it for like 5 seconds, and then they take the
Yeah,
thing off. If the film were
yeah,
if this were an ordinary film that wants to try to convince you that what's happening is real and designs its story so that you'll kind of be swept away by it, they would design
mm,
that scene so that there's a cut, and then there's another person, inside who's like been trained to resist torture. There would be some sort of torture specialist or
yeah,
whatever, and they would do it for a much longer period of time. But in
yeah,
this
yeah.
film, that all that matters is that the film is informing you that he's being tortured now. So
Right.
he takes it for 5 seconds, and then they're like, "Oh shit, we got to get this dress off this guy's head because we don't want our lead actor to die
Yeah. Oh
or
man.
feel like he's dying, since that's the whole point of waterboarding, is that you're totally fine, but your brain is telling you that you're dying."
Yeah, yeah. And what do you take of the ending?
Yeah, man, I don't know. Why does he? So
Why?
he shoots her. Why does he
Yep.
shoot her exactly?
Because he been double crossed by her. So I think that's why he shoot her. Did he get the money? I don't remember. I think he didn't get the money. And why he tried
I don't
to
remember.
kill himself? Why
Well, he does kill
he
himself.
yeah? Why he paint his face blue? I don't have no idea why. Why? Because like like at the last bit he has second thought about like
Yeah.
doing all that, but
Well, that scene echoes the one earlier in the film when he sits down on the train tracks.
right.
Remember when he sits down on the train tracks and you hear, like, it's a long
Yep,
take. You hear the train approaching and he just gets up at the last second.
yep.
That's when he's been abandoned by her, when he's been double crossed for the first time, before she shows up again later after the whole princess thing,
Yep.
when she shows up on the docks that I was talking about before. But before that, she leaves him.
Yep.
Or they get separated when she gets like captured by the little person who she owes money to. He's
Yep.
together with the people who are chasing after them. Do you remember the little person
Yep. I remember.
who talks on that gigantic phone with a huge antenna in a made-up language?
It's a made up language. Okay.
Do you remember this?
Yeah. I remember that. I remember like I remember where Marianne, like she shut up like having the scissor, like in front of the camera.
Right. So that I think the scene where he's pointing the gun at her and she holds up the scissors and they're both looking straight into the camera, I think that's supposed to be like an abstracted fight scene. Like what we're supposed to get from that is that the two characters are directly opposing one another because they're both looking right into the camera at each other.
Yep.
And they both hold up their weapons.
Understand.
So the idea is that there's some sort of clash or some sort of fight between them. But the film doesn't show it. Instead, it just presents that information in a French New Wave style, like using some other technique.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
All right. I think this one is the one that like I enjoy to a certain extent because the visual look great. The story is almost non-existent, and the character is like not really a likable bunch that we love to follow.
Well, I don't need the characters to be likable. I
As
just
long
wish
as
that
they
they
good.
weren't writing. I just wish that they weren't like writing and quoting poetry all the time.
I agree with you on that. I think like all the three movie have that as well. Have that aspect where they just try to quote something or some philosophy. Like garbage.
Well, Jules and Jim and Pierrot le Fou for sure. Hiroshima Mon Amour not so much. I don't think.
Yeah, but the way they talk is unnatural as well because they not
Yeah, but for that-
represent person. They
Right. So in that film, it's for a different reason. That film is like very, very different from the other two.
Yep, agree. So yeah, not a great week for me in terms of friend.
Why
and
did he
wife.
try? Why did he want to kill himself? I mean, it
Right.
seemed to me the film was just like leaning into kind of absurdism at that point.
Yep, that makes sense.
Like nothing, for all of the poetry that he's written and all the things that he's done and seen, the experiences that he's had with Marianne, it does, like, none of it really matters, because nothing matters at all.
Yep.
So you might as well just kill yourself.
Yep.
And you might as well paint your face blue. What does it matter what color your face is?
I'm pretty sure that he doesn't love her that much to like give up his life for her.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he did it out of despair or anything. I'm saying the film is like borrowing from existentialism, absurdism. Just he's lost the woman, so he doesn't have sex to look forward to anymore. And without your base urges and impulses, does anything else even really matter? Like, does life matter at all? Why not just Does it matter whether
Oh,
your face is blue, purple, has pink polka dots on it? Just paint your face whatever color you want and blow yourself up.
yeah, yeah. There another thing that I want to mention is that he having the second thought about the whole running thing. So he tried to call his wife at one point, but I remember like it didn't go very well. I don't remember the exact detail.
Neither do I. I do remember him calling his wife, and I don't remember any of the
Yeah.
details either, like how the conversation went. I just remember that it was very short, like it was very brief, and so it was
Mm-hmm.
clear that she had said something he wasn't pleased with pretty early
Mm-hmm.
into the phone call, and then he just hangs up, or maybe he gets
Yeah.
hung up on. In any case, I guess that scene was meant to inform us that like I don't he'd kind of gotten weary of all the excitement of being wrapped up in this plot with Marianne,
Mm-hmm.
and he was looking for something a little bit more stable. But then when he calls his wife and tries to find that stability, he realizes instantly, oh yeah, no, I hate this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree on that. All right. Friendly wife. What do you think?
I mean, I think we should have watched Breathless instead of this movie.
All right. Because I already watched Breathless.
Yeah, I get it. I
That's
mean,
why.
I don't
That's the whole
regret
reason
having
why.
seen this film. It was a trip. You know, it was interesting. I'd watch another Godard film for sure.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah,
Good on you.
we didn't do a
I
lot of the we didn't do Breathless or the 400 Blows, or I think since you've already seen a lot more films than I have, you're looking to watch some new stuff. Um,
Let me see because I have been watching some of got that other movies. I have watched Breathless. I have watched like some of it more recent film is
have you seen
like
Masculine
the
Feminine?
no haven't the image book hit latest.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
like
I'm,
2018 or
I'm, I'm,
something.
and I watched Band of Outsider Band Apart. And yeah, don't really have much memory of that. I remember hating the image book. So maybe it's just God that is not for me, man.
Yeah, kind of like Wong Kar-wai is not for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you just encounter a director whose style kind of puts you to sleep.
Oh,
If
not
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 literally, then at least like
yeah.
intellectually.
Just yeah. Just let me cold. Alrighty.
Yeah, but the movement is more than just him. Even though he's like the leading figure, there's
That's true.
more than just one guy. He may
Yep.
have
Yep.
like spearheaded it, but
And
there were many other left bank
and
directors.
it's interesting because I think I should like it. I should like the movement
Nope, nope. I'll
because like
stop. I'm going to stop you right there. You are not. No
why
one is obligated to like any film ever. There's no reason
yeah
for that.
that's true. The reason I bring that up is just some of the directors who influenced by the friendly wife like Tarantino, Wes Anderson. I love their work, but
Right.
not the friendly wife film itself.
Oh, that's okay. You know,
Yep,
we
that's
here
true.
in the land of American cinema welcome you with open arms. We'll take all the movements from other countries all over the world and rip them off, and you can just watch the American films, the American versions of those movies instead. We got
Yeah,
your back.
yeah, like American Pie. That one is the classic, one for the ages.
I think I saw that movie when I was like way too young, when it was like
How young?
inappropriate. So I don't remember much about it.
All right.
But I mean, are you
It says
saying that that
like
film is a? I mean, I was talking about the
oh
fact that America will take I don't know, elements from world cinema and kind of make them their own and be like, oh yes, we are now doing this. Is that
yeah.
American Pie didn't do that, did it?
American Pie and scary movies. They kind of like spoof of like like a certain genre. Scary movie is spoof of horror movie, and American Pie is more like spoof of like gross out comedy. So
Well,
yeah,
yeah, like a sex comedy. Yeah.
yeah. So
But that's not really what I was talking about. I was talking
yeah, yeah.
about Tarantino and Wes Anderson kind of distilling
All
the
right, right.
the
Yeah.
work of other directors from other countries that had
The
come before them.
the good side. Yep, yep.
Yeah, they just
I agree.
steal everything, and then everyone's free to enjoy movies in English.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, in recent interview, Tarantino had been clearly say that he didn't enjoy any of Francois Truffaut. He compared Francois Truffaut to Ed Wood. Like so. It is a really
Okay, I
bold
don't
statement
know.
from him.
I don't even know
You
what
know,
that's meant to imply, but
you
Truffaut, he
know
was the one who did Jules and Jim, right?
that's right. And
There you go.
do you
I'm a
know
fan.
do you know Ed Wood?
No.
The uh the one who like people think of like the worst directors of all time. So
Oh, really?
he make he make film really bad that like it's it become a cult now. People just try to watch it.
So Tarantino thinks that Truffaut
Com-
is
it
just makes
just
terrible,
as good
terrible
as Ed Wood.
movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, there's probably
So
not enough N-word, not enough use of the N-word for him to appreciate them.
well,
That might be a prerequisite for him to find a movie enjoyable.
yeah, well. Nah, it's just one man opinion anyway.
Yeah. Sticking up for my,
So
my boy.
yeah, so he doesn't compare to this podcast where we have like two men opinions. So we double
That's
the
right. Double the
yeah
credibility.
the credible. That's right. Alrighty. All right. So we're gonna I think it's like a month from now until we get into another movie the podcast Triple Cross Cinema. The next time we're gonna be watching three anime movie for the Double Cross Cinemas of the last
Yeah, but
year
that'll be on another
of this
channel.
year. Yeah, that's right.
So if you're listening to us here on TCA, we'll be back in 1 month. What will the films be? What will the theme be? Who knows?
We find out.